Alright everyone, Lego here is back with a new project and a new script. Not something I made, but something another one on the Discord community made, and I decided to give it a try after I found out what I wanted to do with it. So I got an idea, and this script worked very well for it, so I wanted to try it out. So here we go. First of all, what you're seeing here is the proof of concept. This script is made of linear characters. It's basically a linear script when you write it, but then once you want to actually present it, you typically wrap it around in an arc. And I know Inkscape has a very handy tool for that, and this is just me testing out said tool to see the parameters of how I need to make my text such that the path effect is just plug and play. So in this particular case, although it went very quickly, I just noticed that the way the nodes on a circle is characterized and the way that the nodes of a circle are treated, that it goes counterclockwise, which shouldn't really be a surprise to anyone, but it's just nice to know for sure. And this means that once I put regular text onto the path, it made it inverse. So what I'm doing here is I am writing my text, and as I go, I'm simply writing it backwards. So the first letter is on the right, and then the next letter is to the left, and the left, and the left, and the left. So yeah, I'm just writing it from right to left, basically. So what am I actually doing here? Well, I made three basic shapes, and they correspond to the three stems of the script that you see a little cutout of on the right. I made a little quick guide, I like to call it, to just have on the left on one of the sides of my screen. I have the key, and then I have a few of the most important rules down below, the punctuation and reading directions and so on and so on. So with that up, I made three base shapes, and of those three base shapes, it's just a matter of which parts you cut away. And occasionally you put some dots or rings inside for vowels. That's it. So it's not a particularly complex system. It wasn't meant to be. Instead, it was meant to mimic the Star Wars glyphs and some of the map designs you see in the sequel trilogy, I believe. And that is sort of kind of also the direction I went in with this particular quote. So it really fit very well in my mind. And it was the decision that cemented my little adventure into the script. So I don't have terribly much to say about it, other than the fact that you're seeing me speed through a lot of these. At the start of this whole thing, I was a bit unsure about the placement of everything. I thankfully, hopefully, quickly realized that the actual orientation of the cutouts don't matter as long as the right kinds are present. So if it's a corner cut, it's a corner cut, and if I just cut straight into the side, it's a side cut. So it doesn't matter which side as long as it's a side. That helped me a lot, and I also fairly quickly decided that I wanted a certain amount of distance between everything, so it's more uniform that way. It tends to be that the bigger your project is, the more text you have, the more uniform your project should be, because that will give the most coherence and it will generate less noise. The smaller the project, the more the individual letters can change and be different and stand out and stuff. But when you have a lot of text, it actually makes everything look better if it's more homogeneous. So I have set amount of distances between words and letters, and the variation will come later when I actually do the arcs. I'll take the different amounts of text, I'll take into consideration the fact that, the further out you go with these arcs of text, the longer each arc will be. So that'll play a role, and so on and so on. So I'll find ways to differentiate the text, but the actual letters themselves should be fairly uniform, and that is why I do as I do here. I also early on took the decision that I didn't want to repeat anything. So although you have a grid here of, what is that, 18 different characters, because the J and H share a symbol, because they don't typically get thrown together in English, I suppose is the reasoning. So I don't have that many characters as is, and I could just make one of each and then copy paste that all along as some sort of font almost, where there's no variation between identical letters. But I didn't really want to do that. Once, because it's lazy, and two, I haven't done that with any other scripts that I typically do repeat text in. Dark Affair, I make all the letters from the base up. Art by Boredom, I typically copy paste, but that's a bit of an exception in my mind because of the way the words and letters are actually designed. So that's a bit of a sidetrack. But anyway, yeah, so I'm not copy pasting anything, I'm making everything from the ground up. And there's about 150 words here, so I mean that took the bulk of the time here. What you're seeing is sped up by about 2,500%, so that would be a factor of 25. So it is going fairly rapidly here, and I do believe I am not quite done, but close enough that I am starting to reach the end of the code. Yeah. So in between the actual text, you see a bit of punctuation. Those are the big, fat, solid blobs of squares. And in the end here, I'm going to place a space character between every single word because they're not there right now. So this is technically one long word, technically. And it was one of the last decisions I made, but in the end, I wanted to make the space characters stand out from the rest as more than just solid squares. So they are going to add a lot of the chaotic, unpredictable elements to the text. They'll act as wildcards, they'll act as elements that just sort of break the mold, break the pattern. And I find that actually works pretty well. Furthermore, I also had a little bit of a hiccup. So this system doesn't have C, the letter C, and that is not entirely uncommon. That does happen in some systems, by choice or by design. And in this particular case, I had a word watch, and the word watch is a tricky one phonetically to, replace the C with something else. So I ended up doing, as you'll see in a moment, I ended up doing the letters WATSH instead, which is, feels wrong, and it doesn't really roll off the tongue, but it was the best I could do in that situation without resorting to some really, really funny phonetic, I don't even know what it's, I guess those are that as well. So now you're seeing me speeding through, adding the space characters, turning everything into its own word, and that pesky little red square there was the famous C. So having made the text now, I am now going to do what I set out to do and convert these beautiful long lines of text into some actual arcs. So I am converting those into paths. Then I am going to take these and I'm going to put them into some appropriate segments. So this is read from the inside out. So I start off with very little space in the center. So just a couple of words at best is all I have space for here. You can see that was too much. So I backtracked a little bit, and here we go. So that was one segment, and then it's just a matter of rinse and repeat. Mark out a segment that I want, take a piece of text, put that on there, adjust as needed, and then on and on and on. And because of the way I did the test earlier, I know the direction and the orientation of the pieces of text, so I'm not worried about the text being backwards anymore, because now when I do it this way, because of the way the node of the arc is oriented and the way it perceives the start and end node relative to each other, I know that the text reverses back into being normal text that is read counterclockwise in this particular scenario from the 6 o'clock position and counterclockwise. So that's why I make the blobs of text in the places that I do. So I ensure the text is still read correctly. But yeah, it was a really nifty piece of little path work there to get it to get where I wanted to. But it's a really nice nice effect. So once the legwork is done, it was just literally just plug and play. There was nothing annoying about it. It worked like a charm. So I'm really happy with that. Right, so what else do we have to talk about right now? I did have a little bit of an issue with some of the widths of this. So one of the few downsides to this is that once I actually put it on the path here, it's not non-reversible, but I get a lot fewer options when it comes to adjusting things like, say, the thickness of the text or the size of the text. I can still adjust the width and height, as you can see I do here, but I don't have the same control when it comes to the actual thickness of the glyphs. And I mean, if I were to do this another time, I don't think I would really change anything, because it's not notable unless you know what you're looking at. I don't think you'll actually notice the fact that the thickness is uniform. I don't think anyone really caught onto that at all. So and coupled with the way I manipulate the width of the whole thing, I don't think I have any issues here at all. I sort of try to segment the text into something that looked good, I guess is the best word I can think of. Like pairing certain elements up in certain groups depending on the actual text of the quote. If anyone is curious about what it is, well, you're just gonna have to read it. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna spoil it, but certain pieces of text belong together, and I try to make that work. Now, what I'm doing here is a little bit of a background thing. I took some circles and I made some radiating lines off of those circles, and the reason why I did that will become apparent when I do the color version, because the background here is a very particular place, and once you get the colors right and once you maybe start to dive into the quote a little bit, you'll immediately know what this is and why it's there. You'll immediately notice where we are historically speaking, and the historical context for that quote will also be a lot clearer once you get that far. And that's enough of that. Now I am just adjusting a few of the minor things here, and I am pretty much done with the black and white version. So no, there we go. Done with the black and white. Now we get to the really cool stuff and the reasoning, the other half of the reasoning why I want a star map for this particular quote. I have done some hologram effects before. I don't remember if I published this. It might not have been a public project at the time, but I have made hologram effects before. This time I'm doing a lot better. The old one was handmade, pretty much. This time I am automating a lot more of the process instead of doing it manually. But what I did here is I split the text up in two chunks. One chunk in one color and another smaller chunk in another color. And the gradients between the two colors will make a lot of this work very well once I figure out the style I actually want to do. So there are a few different ways to split things up. And depending on the way I split them, I would either get too much work or not enough. So this was a cheap, effective way of measuring, seeing if I could get the distortion I wanted with just the path effect alone, and I couldn't. So I had to split them up as originally thought. And once I have this split, it's now a matter of, well, at what level is it enough? So I can do a lot of stuff or I can tone it down. So here is the first example where I really shifted the text a lot, and you will see in a moment, maybe, perhaps once I zoom in, or maybe it gets too fast. I did zoom in a couple of times and just tried to read the text, and it was too much. So it took a couple of tries for me to tone it down enough that it was not, too crazy. I still want the text to be readable. In the end, I don't think I overdid it, but I'm also pretty biased because I know what the whole thing says, and I know, I know what I'm looking at. So it's hard to judge sometimes when something is too much. In the end, I got the blue nuance that I wanted. I'm now working on a bit of the background, and the final, I guess you could call it, hologram effect trick will be revealed in a moment. It's not just lightsaber effects. The glowing neon light that I am very fond of using sometimes. Among other things, I'm going to use it on the background right now. But no, I'm not going to use glowy lightsaber effects on the actual hologram itself. I'm going to be using a very neat trick with the blur tool. I'm going to directionally blur it only in the horizontal direction, and that leaves a huge, very distinct effect on the whole thing that really transform it into a hologram, at least in my opinion. So what are we doing now? I am just adding some of the last few effects to the background, giving it that distinctive design that I need for this particular place. And I do believe I am almost done with these edges. Maybe, perhaps. It'll be a moment. But while I'm doing that, oh, there we go. There we go. So this is the basic glow, and then I took a copy of that and I reversed it, as you see I did here, and this is where the magic happens. Look at that. Look at that. Combining the two effects together and giving it that distinctive horizontal blur. Look at that. I really, really like that effect. It did exactly what I needed it to. It's just in the background, I suppose, but it really adds something to it, and I don't think it really detracts from the readability. You're supposed to be zoomed in anyway, because you can't read the dots otherwise. So I'm not saying like the fact you can't read it from a distance, it's not a deterrent here. You can't read it from a distance anyway. At least that's my defense. And that hologramness is just really, it's really something I set out to do. So I'm really happy with that. The only thing I'm not too thrilled about in hindsight is I wish I varied the height of the letters just a little bit in hindsight, but it was a lot quicker that way. And overall, I do believe that I've done what I set out to do. I made a hologram, I made a kick-ass quote, and I tried out Star Map. So with that said, I do believe I have said everything I wanted to say here. I will see you another time. and goodbye.